Can I do something quickly? I have your bursary application letter.
Okay.
And I just want to read some of it to you.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. I've never been this hungry for education and knowledge for its power. And the only thing that will change my life, not because I sprang from a different planet, it's because I'm from a world of people who are trying to survive, taking each day as it comes. I come from a doomed background. I grew up to be part of the race to survive and nothing more. The environment around me conditioned me to believing that all my hopes were unrealistic and would never come true. But now I'm ready to knock everything down like a bull just to get educated.
I'm studying information systems and specializing in network engineering. My name is Julia Zwani, and I was a Risa Babile student.
So Risa Babile is, I think, the lifeblood of where we are now in Orange Farm, and they become that in every community.
The purpose of it is to try and develop people and try and create 100,000 job opportunities.
I'm Bafana Vilagazi. I'm from Orange Farm, and I'm a fashion designer. After my matric, I used to sit on the streets, we used to play dice, But at the end of the day, when you go to home, maybe there's no food, you didn't achieve anything, I came from the family of 5 siblings and 1 parent, and only 1 person was working. And then I started welding, making gates to accumulate funds. Before Risa, I was just a boy with the dreams. There are people now who are employed because of Risa. There are people now who have their own businesses because of Risa.
Momentum Metropolitan's intention is to make it better for every student that walks through that gate.
They gave me this opportunity, and look where I am now. It doesn't matter where you come from, you can still make it.
Hello and welcome to the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation's panel discussion on financial education as a basic human right. My name is Dan Moyane. With us, joining us virtually, is Bekithemba Mafulela. He's, of course, the head of retailization and strategic markets at Momentum Metropolitan Holdings. He'll be discussing how financial advice plays a role in the improvement of financial education. Welcome, Beki. And with me in the studio, sitting next to me, we have Professor Bernadene de Clercq from the Department of Taxation at UNISA. She's also a director of the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation. Professor de Clercq will be discussing the findings and sharing with us some insights of the Momentum and UNISA Household Financial Wellness Index. Now, that report, very important. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much.
But first up, Beki, let me start with you in our discussion now. How, in your view, how important is it to improve financial education in vulnerable communities? I mean, you work with financial planners and advisors.
It's absolutely critical, Dan, because at the end of the day, it's an ecosystem that starts with financial literacy and education. So awareness is very, very important because that's where everything begins. So being aware of your personal finances, being aware of what you need to make sure that you secure the future, your own future and the future of your family. So that's absolutely critical. So I think everything absolutely starts with that financial literacy, financial education piece, and then we build on everything from there.
So that awareness is very much important. In your experience, does it exist? Do we have such awareness among the planners and advisors?
I think with the financial advisors, it's definitely there. That's the role they play. But I think more importantly, with the end consumer, I think that's where there's still some work to be done to make sure that awareness is there, that that financial education and literacy is at the levels that financial advisors can start off and support the clients. So I think with the financial advisors, absolutely. But I think it's an ecosystem, like I said, between the consumer and the financial advisor.
Now, financial advice space is important in terms of analyzing the needs of the various clients, in terms of their future, in terms of retirement. How important is it to understand and advise them properly so that they get the financial wellness message that should be intrinsic in financial literacy?
So it's essential, Dan, because I think one of the things that's quite prominent in our industry at the moment is the buy-in of the consumer themselves. Because whilst financial advice is very important, it's actually equally important that the client themselves buys into the strategy and the financial plan that the advisor is advising them. So, for instance, coaching is becoming quite important because it's a new way of advising clients where you coach them to understand the need and to be able to buy in and commit to that plan. So I think it's a partnership between the consumer and the financial advisor. So the financial advisor is there to give the information, the know-how, to be able to point clients to where the gaps are. But ultimately, it's really about the client being able to buy into the strategy and staying committed to it for them to get the result that they're looking for.
Yeah, and as we know, financial wellness is a journey. Prof, you part of the Momentum UNISA's Household Wellness Insights, Financial Wellness Insights report, and every year you've been doing this for a number of years now. And I'm just wondering, how does human and social capital intersect with financial education and financial vulnerability? Because, Peggy, they talk about gaps that exist.
Yes. Thank you, Dan. Very good question. Before I go to the relationship, I think let's just unpack what the capitals, or you mentioned social capital, human capital, refer to. Our wellness index got 5 capitals, or it's the 5 resources that households have. So it's their income, what we call physical capital. So it's their income statement, expenditure and income. We've got their balance sheet, what we call asset capital. Social capital is their level of personal empowerment. So do you think you can handle your own finances, or are we always waiting for somebody else to take ownership of that? We've got human capital, that's your level of education, and then lastly, your environmental capital. So what we looked at this year is look at that relationship to understand that regarding financial literacy. So the more empowered people felt, it resonated to their level with financial literacy. So they took ownership of that journey, they reinvested in their own financial education, and therefore they felt more in control of their finances. But I agree with what Becky also mentioned, it's our ecosystem. So it's very important that the household understand, should they get advice, what does it mean? Is it the right advice? Is it the right product for them? So that accountability goes both ways. So you have to be an active member in this financial education journey.
So real life experience is important. And I'm just thinking, Prof, that we live in the world of the coronavirus pandemic now. Many people have lost maybe 1 or 2 of those capitals you've just mentioned.
Yes. Yes, we saw that, and that also resonates with our other research, the consumer financial vulnerability. And there again, we look at the softer issues of what makes people feel vulnerable. It was quite interesting, pre-COVID, they felt they can still manage their expenditure, although they were less, or feeling a little bit more vulnerable about income. But obviously, I think COVID was a good reality check for all of us to say a secure income stream doesn't exist. A lot of people didn't lose their jobs, but they had to take a reduction in income. So again, we saw that relationship with empowerment of what people prepared themselves for. So it's very important when you look at what is in your control, plan accordingly, and then stick to that plan, but really do the effort and invest the time.
Plan accordingly and stick to the plan. Begi, from a financial advice, financial planning perspective, I mean, how important would that be? And I mean, how can you plan nowadays when there's so much uncertainty?
So ultimately, everybody has to start where they are as opposed to where they need to be or where they're going. So it's very important to have a plan and to get the basics in place, because that's how you build, from that perspective. So a plan is absolutely essential, because, I mean, without planning, you plan to fail. So it's very important for an individual to have a financial plan, to have a financial advisor who's, knowledgeable and competent to assist you with that financial plan where you need help, to understand what to put in that financial plan. What does it mean for your own personal goals and your own personal circumstances? And to look at, a journey, as the Prof said, to say, how do you go on that journey, with the financial advisor helping you on that journey. So it's absolutely essential to have a financial plan and even an implementation plan to make sure that, there's a strategy and an execution plan to actually get to where you're going.
As everybody says, plan is one thing, but implementing the plan is very important. Prof, what does then financial success look like? I mean, you've planned, and what are the practical tips that you think people can follow to achieve their own financial success?
First of all, again, I think it's important to understand financial success means something different for all of us. What financial success means for me is not necessarily the same for you. But what's important, there's a short-term and a long-term financial success. So you've got this journey to the ultimate goal, like Becky also said. So there are small victories or small successes. So, for example, you've got a home loan. So if you pay your monthly installments, that's financial success as is, that you were capable and your financial position allowed you to do the monthly installments. The ultimate goal is having the bond repaid, so that's another long-term financial success. But it's this mix between, don't think you haven't achieved success if you miss the small victories that you achieve on a monthly or even on a daily basis. But it's almost always important to remember it's your financial success and not the Joneses or the guy next door.
Yeah, because we fall into the trap sometimes of comparing. So practically, try to stick to the plan as much as possible. It's those small victories that will help you to build up to whatever goal you've set for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And another key important thing that we have to remember is the benefit of financial education, but you can't teach what you don't know. So if you have a situation, and we have got a lot of children that are prone in very difficult financial situations, lack of money in the household, but parents can also be guilty of lack of bad financial behavior. So the role models that we have to follow have to step up to that conversation. So invest in your children by showing them a good example of what is sticking to the plan, but also be able to adapt if something happens, readjust, realign, but still remember the ultimate goal.
Bergie, listening to the Prof there, talking about the importance of everybody stepping up with the right messages, I'm just wondering, from a financial planning side, as advisors, what is the message you would give to somebody who's just about to earn their first income in terms of being able to behave in the right way in terms of financial education? What message would you want them to have?
So that's a very good question, Dan. And the industry is evolving. And the one thing that we're realizing that is that a financial plan is personal. So you cannot have a one-size-fits-all. And what is important for one client might not be important for the next client. So it's very important to actually personalize that conversation, personalize that financial plan, and actually start off with a good conversation of understanding of what is important for the client, where they are, what is their experiences, what aspirations do they have, not just in terms of financial, but also at a very, personal life perspective as well. Because one thing that we're realizing is that you cannot separate life with someone's money. It's one and the same thing. So that plan is very, very personal. And the financial advisor actually would have to take a very, personalized approach, or bespoke approach with that particular member to be able to understand what is important to them, and then help that client to expand, those possibilities or those goals, or to actually have a plan to reach those goals that they have.
So financial education, Prof, is an important empowering tool.
Yes.
And it's individual. Everybody's journey, from what you've said and what Becky is saying, it's really individual. You can't generalize about it, even if we're in the same environment.
Yes, obviously there are certain core principles we should all know, how to manage debt, how to look at your income streams, etc. But it's like you rightly said, my income stream, my debt levels are not the same as yours. So I need to engage, we need to look at it holistically, look at your financial position, look at the goals and how do you achieve them bit by bit, but understand the consequences of your decisions. And again, like Becky said, it's an ecosystem, but you can't expect the financial advisor to do all the hard labor for you. You need to be actively understanding what he's saying and double check, even if need be, get a second opinion. So take responsibility of that advice.
I was about to say, it's really up to you to say, I need to walk this, I need to do this for myself because I know my situation, rather than depending on an advisor only.
Yes. I think it goes to accountability. So the advisor is there, but I also want to let people understand you don't need to have an advisor. It talks about affordability. So there's this myth that financial advisor is, if you can't afford a financial advisor, you can't do financial planning. Financial education and financial planning starts from when you earn 1 cent or when you hope to earn 1 cent. It might become more complicated if you have a more comprehensive portfolio. But financial planning means watching your money, tracking it, where it goes. And we all seen that from financial literacy side, your lower income is sometimes much more financial literate than your higher income side because they have to be. They know exactly how much money they've got. They know exactly where the money is going. They know a good deal when they see them. So it is a myth to think money brings financial literacy. The higher income guys are almost guilty of almost being blasé. I've got so much money, I don't need to care about it. But COVID brought a big reality for a lot of people that says, I wish I did this. I knew I had to do it, but I wish I did. So it's a good learning curve for all of us.
Indeed, a good learning curve. From a financial planner's perspective, Peggy, financial education, you said it's important to improve it. It comes down to, as well, awareness. And we all live in the same environment, whether you're a financial advisor or you're a client. How important is it for the financial advisors, the planners, when they deal with the clients to really understand the environment their client lives in?
I think it's absolutely essential, Dan, because the circumstances of the client are very important. So you've got to meet people where they are as opposed to where you think they should be. So financial advisors are increasingly taking that personalized approach where they really understand the client's circumstances, the client's education levels, even the client's relationship with money. Like the professor said, often you could have someone who earns a lot of money, but actually doesn't budget at all, right? Or spends money, in ways that are not necessarily helpful for their financial plan. So to the earlier point, you cannot divorce a financial plan to the person's life, because those two things are intertwined. You need to be able to have an integrated approach, to financial planning. And that's why now, financial coaching is actually becoming very important in the industry. So it's not just about talking about the money and educating clients about, portfolios and all of these things, that we talk about, but it's actually about going to the client's level, engaging with the client as a human being, and then moving to financial literacy, education, being able to influence them from that perspective. So the environment that the person is in is absolutely key.
So in your view, as we're about to conclude our discussion in this segment of this very important financial education as a human right panel discussion, financial advice does play then an important role, in your view, Peggy, in improving financial education of clients?
It's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem of education, financial literacy, awareness, and then also on top of that, financial advice as well. And obviously, like what the professor said, there are clients that need to start with the basics, right? As the financial plan gets more complicated and there's need for advice, then that's also important as well. So it's not an either or, it's an end that starts with financial education and literacy and grows into complicated financial plans depending on the client.
Thank you very much, Peggy. Prof, of course, besides the wellness, financial wellness insights report, you're also busy between UNISA and the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation at the moment, developing a new platform or a new course, let me call it that, a massive open online course on financial literacy. That's MOOC, M-O-O-C.
That's right.
Yeah, why is it important and what's happening there and how can people participate?
I think the one message that we want to get there is the access to financial education. So the MOOC, as it says, it's open access, so it will be a free course that people can enroll for to get financial education. It's the first step in preparing the youth for job readiness, and there's a lot of financial decisions that needs to be made. You finished your qualifications or you finished school, and suddenly you're starting to work. And we do believe that these youth are unprepared for these discussions. So what we will be doing is having this MOOC, but what we would like to do with it is co-create with this target audience that we have in mind. So therefore, we would like to invite potential participants to take this journey with us. We need to get to know them, they need to get to know us, and then when we develop something, it talks to their needs, their platforms, their requirements.
So it's currently in development,
Yes.
and by the way, the link to that site, if you're interested to participate, as the professor is saying, is at the bottom of your screen right now. The details are there for the link, so anybody can participate.
Anybody. So although it's targeted at the youth, I've just went through a process with my own son starting this career path. So parents involved, grandparents involved, anyone that can contribute to the content development as well as the knowledge. Do we target the right audience? Do we give them the right information? They're more than welcome to take this journey. As you're saying, it's development phase, so it's not that it's alive and ready to run, but we're going to develop it, pilot it, test it, and then hopefully it will be active.
Yeah, but what's exciting is it's a co-creation process.
Absolutely.
So you'll be taking part in co-creating it. The link is at the bottom of your screen currently. As I've said already, you click on it and then you'll be able to access it. Maybe use that to participate, to create something together with UNISA and the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation that will assist you in financial literacy. Thank you very much, Prof, for your time, and Begi as well. Thank you very much. And as we conclude this segment of our panel discussion, I just want to draw your attention to a shortened video we're going to play now of one of Momentum Metropolitan Foundation's entrepreneurial financial education program. It's simply called Metropolitan Kickstars. It's currently being rolled out on WhatsApp or via WhatsApp, in fact, since November 2019, and we hope through it to reach young people across the nation. So watch this.
My name is Clercq from Momentum Metropolitan. I'm the Consumer Financial Education Specialist. The Metro Kickstars training program enhances entrepreneurial skills as well as financial literacy skills with participants. And by doing so, we hope that these youngsters in their communities can go back into their community with the skills that they have learned and earn an income.
I can learn a lot of things, and I can learn about I must open my own shop and things like that. I did enjoy it. I was very happy. Everyone was happy. I'm very excited to come back again.
Momentum Metropolitan Foundation believes in the empowerment of youth. So what we hope to achieve with this program is to identify a specific segment within communities of need, within the LSM 1 to 8, households that earn less than 250,000 Rand, in vulnerable communities. We focus on the youth specifically because we believe that with the unemployment rate being what it is right now, this will give them a step towards earning an income in their community.
Dan het ons the head of marketing. Nou hierdie persoon is die kreatiewe persoon in ons groep, né? Want die persoon gaan dink aan advertising. Hoe gaan ons die posters maak? Al die tipe goed. Okay?
About 3.5 million of the 10.3 million young people aged 15 to 24 are classified as those who are not in employment, education or training. In other words, NEET. So Momentum Metropolitan wants to make the youth aware of the informal economy that exists in South Africa. Opportunities exist with micro enterprises that contribute to the economy. And it is with this in mind that our focus is on the youth. If we succeed in igniting small businesses in communities, the knock-on effect can be quite positive.
We learned a lot of stuff. We talked about how to manage your own business. Yes, I really enjoyed today's lesson. And we talked about financial stuff in the business. Yes, I'm gonna start my own business.
Kickstars has been going on for a number of years in under the Metropolitan brand, and we've decided to revamp it, make it a bit more creative, focus more on entrepreneurial skills, which is a need in our country. So we've revamped the entire program to make it a bit more appealing, creative, interactive. We've got speakers like Tsepo, the jeans maker, which I'm really excited about, him being involved, and Dr. Puleng, these are extremely focused minds in their disciplines, right? So bringing that across to youngsters excites me. 15 to 24-year-old, I wish I was in the room, quite frankly. We've developed the program to be aligned to the Economic Management Sciences curriculum. So with COVID-19 coming, we had the time to focus on improving and enhancing the program. So that is what I'm most looking forward to seeing it all play out eventually.
Welcome back. Now you have an idea what Metropolitan Kickstars is all about. That's the video we've just shared with you here. This is the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation's panel discussion on the importance of financial education as a basic human right. We are now continuing into the second part of our panel discussion. And for this segment of our panel discussion, I'm going to be joined by, virtually from London, in the UK, of course, is Isabel Taylor Muñoz, who is one of the digital financial literacy partners in financial education, working with the Momentum Metropolitan Foundation. Among many things, Isabel is going to be talking to us about ways in which people are being financially excluded and how fintech can help address this. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you, Dan. It's great to be here.
Now, in the studio with me for this part of the discussion is also Raylene Govender. She's joining us from another one of Momentum Metropolitan Foundation's partners in financial literacy, that's Funza. Raylene is a board trustee and will be discussing how financial education can become part of people's lives. Welcome, Raylene.
Thank you, Dan. Lovely to be here.
Now, like you saw the Metropolitan Kickstars video, before we get going in our discussion, we thought let's share with you a video of what FinEasy is about, just to give you a glimpse and overview of their programs. Take a look at the FinEasy video.
At FinEasy, we use stories to make financial concepts real, relatable, and fun, so that everybody can truly understand finance. We create these stories based on real lives. Here is one of our inspirations.
Hello. My name is Zandile Tlapi, founder of a beautiful baby shop based in one of the biggest townships called Ikayelicha. Baby Friendly is a home-based baby shop. It never occurred to me that I could even try be close to doing anything that has to do with business. But when the idea hit me that, for the longest time, people in townships go outside of townships to get baby clothes. I have 3 boys myself. And so I wanted to do something, different, something feminine, and something that will actually help the community, and something that will actually be a legacy to my family. Yeah, every day is a money decision, because if there's any stock, or if there's new things that I need to buy paper, I need to buy this and that. Everything is a money decision. It's crazy. So cash flow is definitely the number one challenge that I've had as a business owner, and having to hire someone and hoping that they'll help you make more sales, make more beautiful product. So cash flow. Long-term goal is to operate in more townships within Cape Town, outside of Cape Town, and have our own store that will be big, locally and eventually international. So there's definitely big long-term goals that we have, and I'm very excited that I'm learning these humble beginnings will definitely pay off in the long run.
For more inspiring stories, Find us on Facebook and follow our page.
Okay, that's what FinEasy is about. You've had a bit of a look. Isabel, let's start with you in terms of financial inclusion or exclusion. Firstly, in what way are people being excluded?
Yes, that's a very good question and quite a complex one actually to answer when you think about a person's journey through life and then their journey through making decisions to do with finance. So I think it's helpful to understand, first of all, that inclusion is really underpinned by access. And this word can be also broken down into different things. So if I wanted to maybe categorize the reasons why people struggle to access available to them, it's probably down to two things. It's the circumstances in which people find themselves, the circumstances in which also those products find themselves marketed to or made accessible to the people who can use them, make use of them. And then there's this other element of trust as well, and understanding that there's a big trust element around accessing financial services, especially given historical events that have had a big impact on that trust aspect. In terms of the circumstances that define someone's journey and their ability to access finance, it is really, first of all, about awareness, understanding of what's out there, understanding why it's important to access these products, how they can be beneficial to a person. And then also it's about, are those products actually relevant to these people? Are they built for those people's needs and so on? And then actually when it comes to it, how do those people access those products? Do they need to go into a branch? Do they need to speak to a human being? Can they just do this online? Are they able to access online products? Are these products in the right language? So I think there's a whole array of reasons that really impact that access barrier.
Now, it's a big barrier from what you're saying, and it's a bit complex. I mean, the problems you're identifying, like lack of trust, can be addressed. I mean, they can be resolved, and one would guess that fintech can be used to address access.
I absolutely think so. I think fintech has a real opportunity now, especially given what we call the fourth industrial revolution and the way that products are now being driven towards digital, which is really what fintech is all about. It should be about opening doors to people and really understanding how they need to access these products, how they can be made available to them in a way that really keeps that end user in mind, that's very user focused. So I think fintech has a fantastic opportunity to do this. The majority of us have mobile phones, whether it's they're powered by data, internet, or simply SMS. There are many ways to actually provide access to end consumers, and fintech is really at the forefront of that.
Yeah, now technology for you, Raylene, as Funza, also plays a part. I mean, Funza's informing or changing or shaping the narrative around financial literacy as well.
That's right, Dan. And I think to Isabel's point, if I look at the South African context, we are a book poor nation. However, we are a cell phone rich nation. So the majority of people and youth in our country do have access to cell phones, mobile devices. So this is what Funza has identified as a medium to reach youth and use this medium to empower with financial literacy.
Now, data is not cheap. I hear people say in South Africa, young people, there was just a few years ago a campaign, hashtag data must fall kind of prices. Young people don't work, they need money. Isn't that a kind of a barrier in terms of creating that access that Isabel is talking about and that you as funds are trying to make sure that young people have in terms of financial education?
Absolutely right. That's absolutely right. But I think Funza, together with its strong management and its influence, have now a zero-rated platform. So you are accessing our stories and our information on a zero-rated platform, which is data-free. So we are removing those barriers.
Yeah, and that should help, Isabel. I mean, in a country like South Africa, where it can be a barrier, those zero-rated type of program like Funza has are very much helpful.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I think it's very helpful, really, to democratize, the understanding of finance. So talking, speaking in the right language, making sure the terminology is clear, making sure people have the right device, making sure it's not too data heavy, all of these things that really help that. And similarly to FinEasy, we've also really made a product that can, similarly to Funza, create that access to that education piece.
Yeah, Raylene, who should be responsible, or who is responsible in ensuring that financial education should become a more integral part of people's lives?
It's a brilliant question, again, and I have to say I'm going to now refer to the previous panelist, Becky, who made the point about it being an ecosystem. So in an ecosystem, you have multiple stakeholders. And this could be people who are charged, with educating us. This could be people who are charged with parenting us. This could be people who have leadership roles in our communities, like religious organizations, etc. So it's diverse. However, one should not abdicate this responsibility to others. And I think what Funza is trying to do by addressing the question amongst youth is empowering them to make sound financial decisions and choices going forward.
Mm-hmm. There's a very big question that is informing our panel discussion here today. It's around human rights, is to look at financial education as a basic human right. I will be asking Isabel and Raylene for their views about that shortly as we continue our discussion. But I just wanted to take a pause now. Like we saw the FinEasy video, like we saw the Metropolitan Kickstars video earlier, let's just pause for a moment and just take a look at a video from Funza so we get a sense of what Funza is all about.
Every single word I read adds to my education. I don't want to waste time. I want to read quality, but I also want to have fun. I go to funza.mobi on my phone. Switch your mobile data on. You just go to search and then go to tags. Wow, look at all these topics. Even better, Funza's not just in English. There is content to enjoy in every local language. You'll find so much. All these cool local stories and articles by great writers like you and me. Funza has new things to read all the time. A new Funza Friday story every week. And fans writing by people like me who also love to tell stories. On Funza, I can read about topics that I'm interested in by young people who get where I'm coming from. This is my generation. I'm preparing for my future. I need information I can trust, and I'm using Funza's free courses to get skills I need, like preparing for the job market. I'm upskilling while I'm reading great stories, and I get a certificate for each course I finish. I love the stories about ordinary South Africans doing extraordinary things. I'm going to send them a story I wrote. Who knows? Maybe I'll get published on Funza. Who's an author now? But right now, I'm going to read a story to my friend, because she's also a Funza fan. Log on to funza.mobi today and get reading.
Welcome back. We've had a look at what Funza is all about. Let's continue our panel discussion now with Isabel and Raylene. Isabel, let me start with you here. Financial literacy should be a basic human right. How do you respond to that?
I think the only way I can respond is that I totally agree. I think it should be a human right. And the reason is that in order to participate in today's society, it's really almost unavoidable that you have to deal with finance at one point in one's life. So I think it's absolutely a necessity to have an understanding of what you're working with in that ecosystem that we've referred to a couple of times now in this panel, and truly drive that understanding and that empowerment. Otherwise, it's really not possible to really thrive in this world. It is truly a survival skill.
Now, Raylene, what would be the top? What should the top human rights focus be for the financial sector or in the financial sector, if financial education is a basic human right, if it's a survival skill, as Isabel says, what's your view on that?
I think definitely the top focus is education. And I think they really need to lobby or be involved in terms of curriculum development to ensure that our youth do receive the knowledge that they need to make their decisions. I mean, we see financial literacy in two parts, as management and knowledge. So knowledge is something you need to have access to. And this is where financial institutions can come in and lobby our governments and those who have this responsibility to ensure that it is made widely available.
Now, our constitution in South Africa, Section 29 of the constitution, talks about the right to education. So you would see financial literacy and financial education forming part of our basic education system?
Absolutely, without a doubt, I would.
So from your grade R, maybe it's too early, I don't know, but from your grade 1 onwards, we should be including it, not just come across it later on. Yes, that might be too late.
Precisely. And I think what the Majolas, the story, moving up with the Majolas, and now that Majola Magic, the sequel that will be aired as a part of this awareness campaign, is that let's not wait until it's too late. You know, let's not put our future in the responsibility of others. And let's ensure that as adults and role models in the society, we have equipped the younger ones to make better informed financial decisions.
You've mentioned that Majola Magic. Let me just inform you, our viewers, that you can visit funza.mobi to register for that Majola Magic today. As Raylene is referring to there, you can click on the link in the description that's now currently at the bottom of your screens as you're watching us to enter the competition and stand a chance to win a cash prize. The much anticipated second edition of Moving Up with the Majolas will be made available today. Simply cannot wait, I'm told. It's fantastic. So there you go. Just visit funza.mobi. That's our call to action. Register for that Majola Magic. The details are there at the bottom of your screen. Now, if financial education, financial literacy, you're arguing here, is a basic human right, it should also be handled in a way that addresses gender inequality. We know worldwide how women are disempowered in the space of finances. So gender equality will be an important focus as well, Isabel, in terms of access to financial education and literacy, so that we ensure that girls in school and young women do get empowered appropriately.
Yes, absolutely agree. I think it's really important to make sure this education is universal, but that we also balance out those existing inequalities. So we really drive for that specific user group, which in this case, is women. And I think, the way that Finisi, for example, does that is by using, again, contextualizing stories, allowing us to have inspirational characters that really make sure that people can visualize that empowerment. So for a woman, it's really important to have an example of how this journey could go in a positive way, and make it really possible. So it's really in the realms of possibility. This is not a man's world. This is not inaccessible. There is no stigma or shame to not knowing anything about finance. It's actually all at your fingertips, especially through these particular programs.
Your views, Raylene?
Thank you, Isabel. I think that was, very leading on to what I was about to say. I think in South Africa, we need to look at it from two perspectives. Yes, from the perspective of an equality, between male and female, and also from what we in South Africa suffer from, which is gender-based violence. And our president has recognized this as a scourge, as the next pandemic. And if we look at the root cause analysis of why this persists, it's because women are not empowered. And if we address this problem of empowering women from a financial perspective, I suspect that we'll also be addressing the gender-based violence issue in the country.
Yeah, because it will lead, hopefully, to financial independence over time, because from what we hear, And research tells us in South Africa, for example, the incidence of GBV tend to be higher, and women feel trapped because they don't have the financial independence. They are dependent on the men.
100%.
Yeah. So the role of our leaders or of leaders to ensure inclusivity and equality, what could that look like in your view, Raylene?
I think our leaders, certainly on a government level, are responsible for policy making. So they have got to get into our parliaments and make policies that enable people to succeed financially and in many other ways. Becky earlier spoke about a personal life plan. So one cannot separate your personal life from your financial life. And I think this is where our governments have a responsibility, to create an enabling policy environment. The second thing is, I think the responsibility does shift with our communities and leaders. If you're out there, you have a responsibility. If you are someone who is visible to youth, whether it is in a religious organization, in a school, or in a non-governmental organization like Funza, you have a responsibility. Otherwise, don't be out there. That's my view.
Yeah, and to achieve that gender equality or inclusion, Isabel, I think it goes back as well to what you said earlier about access. And if you look across our continent, Africa, you find that financial inclusion remains a core obstacle due to lack of access. And it's going to be important, I guess, for leaders to make sure there is access to products, and then language, the right language is used.
Absolutely. I think leaders must lead the way and really lead by example as well. And ultimately, the leaders also of the industry must lead the way. So really creating products that match the needs of people, really listen to that use case that each individual has, because we each have our own journey, and life is not easy, you know, in the best of times. So it's up to the leaders, both of the industry and of countries and worldwide, to drive that inclusion and really focus on that access and those barriers to access. And we definitely think education is a basis of that. And making that education accessible is really, really key.
Yeah, and then let's just tell our viewers now about another call to action that we think we want to draw your attention to. It's the Momentum Money Shift program, which is powered by FinEasy on WhatsApp, and you can follow the link that's currently showing at the bottom of your screens to open WhatsApp. Just say hi, literally hi, to start that the course, and then use the code MSW21. MS for sugar, W21. And once you've completed the course, you'll receive 500 megabytes of data, okay, to use as you wish. So check the details at the bottom of your screen and take part in that MSW21 coded call to action there from FinEasy on WhatsApp. Now, Raylene, access, leadership, education, there are various stakeholders. How important is forming the right partnerships, the stakeholder partnerships in terms of this process, in terms of public and private sector, to make sure that financial education can really progress and reach the places it needs to reach, especially the young people?
Really critical, very critical, absolutely paramount. No man is an island, no institution is an island. So in order for us to improve and to address this, we do need collaboration between the various stakeholders. So it's critical. As in the case of Funza, with the example, I mean, they have partnered with private sector companies like the likes of your mobile networks to have this arrangement of being zero rated. And then also collaborating with Momentum Metropolitan on this particular project. So were it not for the various partners and stakeholders, this would not be possible, and I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Yeah, partnerships in the digital world, I mean, they can be facilitated. I mean, fintech, for example, you've mentioned, Isabel, earlier, the fourth industrial revolution. It should be easier. I mean, I'm using those words advisedly in terms of using digital platforms to foster more sustainable partnerships.
Yes, I completely agree. I think especially in technology, there's a real opportunity here to be able to work together, leverage everything that, all the power that technology brings to, first of all, create and fortify those partnerships, just to make sure that you can actually provide what's really needed in the market. So really get the job done, so to speak, so that people can really and truly access the products that they need to access, and that those products really respond to a need. Yeah. So I think technology certainly allows for partnerships to be created, but also to be strengthened and work on a sustainable basis.
Yeah. Now, to conclude, I just want to touch back again on the issue of financial literacy, financial education as a basic human right, and of course that can promote access to the world of finance, and that's financial inclusion. I just want to get your views finally to say, if there was one thing, and you're thinking back now, of the discussion we've had, that people must focus on, that young people must focus on to grapple with this world of financial education. Isabel, in your mind, what would that be?
So I think for me, the first thing I would really stress is that finance is everybody's business. It's not a world that's separate, that belongs to a certain group of people. It's actually part of our day-to-day life. And so it's really important that we realize that it's never been more crucial to have that understanding of finance. And therefore, seeking out products that can actually bring that financial education to your doorstep and really provide from that understanding is going to be key. So remove the shame, remove the idea that it's nothing to do with you. It's everything to do with you. And not only that, but it's all so possible. Everything is accessible if you find the right product and the right people to learn from.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Your parting thoughts, Raylene?
Yes, I think I'm just going to piggyback of what Isabel has said and say that sometimes we find role models in the strangest of places. I know we spoke a lot about government and leadership and educators and community people around us. But like in the story of the Majolas, we had Ma Ruby, who was phenomenal. And she, in the story, was able to guide the characters and give them sound financial advice. So remove the perspective of always thinking it has to be someone that works for a certain institution to give you that advice. And the second thing, leading on from what Prof and Becky said, was owning your journey. You and I are different. We have different goals. So understand your personal journey, your financial journey, and own that journey. That would be my parting words.
Thank you very much, Raylene, and thank you very much, Isabel, for the insights and for sharing with us some of your views in this financial education panel discussion from Momentum Metropolitan Foundation. And this is all we have time for today. I do hope, though, that you have enjoyed your time with us, and that from this conversation today, from this discussion, you can start the conversation in your homes and your communities about how financial education can play a part in everyone's lives, and certainly how it is your basic human right. Thank you.